G'day friends and fans, welcome to Dave Talks Stuff Ukraine War Update for the 2nd of June 2026. The clock is ticking, the countdown has begun, and we'll get to that shortly. Now first we start with the map today. Caught me a little early. I did think it was going to be Wednesday, but I did say Tuesday, Wednesday. We expected a Ukrainian attack on Russia to be retaliated on by a much larger attack from Russia. And Zelensky, like a genius, said, I expect a Ukrainian attack. I wonder how I found out. I watched Dave Talk Stuff. That's how. No, come on. Pretty common. I'm not a genius, unfortunately. I just notice that Russia retaliates after every big Ukrainian attack, and Ukraine is only able to muster a few attacks. They do attack regularly, but only a few get through, and they all do the hoopla and say, look at us, we're big badasses, we attacked Russia, and every time Russia attacks them, they go, help me, I'm winning, help me, stop it, stop attacking me, scale up my power plants. You know, which is it? Hey, you big tough man, or you little mouse who runs away and goes, America, bail me out. Yeah, Europe, keep giving me weapons. Yeah, you're not so tough, are you? It's all right. Everybody has their hypocrisy, and Ukraine is about as transparent as mud, but we do know 7 out of 10 suburbs in Kiev were hit. We do know that industrial centres in Sumy and central Ukraine and southern Ukraine and Dnipro were all hit. We do know that in and around Kharkiv, truck depots, or mostly oil, were hit, as well as the post office, this time home to a communication centre. That's pretty much standard for the course. It's now doesn't matter what they used, the usual 70 to 90% got through. Ukraine won't tell you where the hundreds of hits took place and will deny if you even ask. So what's the point? We move on. There's been fighting in the north, fighting in particularly the Kharkiv buffer zone. Russia's pushing towards Vilcha. Fighting in the southern end of Kupiansk. Russia has shelled positions, Ukrainian positions in Kupiansk. Fighting along the border. We get to Lyman, where there has been some progress south of Lyman, though it is possible, though I think, the Russians here may have actually, but not much, but be further into the forest here than the lines would make out, but it is blurred. But patrols from both sides are fighting in the forests, and same in here, in which Russia has advanced towards Dimova, swallowed all but a little bit of Yampil. So it's a wee bit of honey might make it go down better, you know. All right, so Russia's made no progress, or seemingly made no progress, in Kramatorsk. It's hard to tell. but they might be focused right now on securing the other side of the river and looking to come for one of these bridges around here, probably here, and secure and squeeze their supply lines a wee bit like they do in other areas. But then again, that leads them to Ukraine bringing up artillery here. But it's all part of the plan now, isn't it? No. Well, going down the battlefield, there's trench hopping, but nothing really spectacular to report, except Russia has broken through Ukrainian lines at Kramatorsk and taken a huge chunk. Yeah, remember when that was down here? It was only yesterday. They've broken through the lines. They've broken through here as well. They've taken almost taken all of Berstock, but it's not. So it was only a road bump, really, a gas station and a couple of farms. The Ukrainians lines were broken here as well. Now they haven't broken far or moved north, but the Russians have advanced. But for some reason, every pro-Ukrainians channel talking about how they captured a T-90 or something, farmers towed it away. You know that story's over a year old? I mean, like, wow, talking about stuck in the past, right? Or how is it we bravely fought off thousands of Russian drones. Ivan will not crush us. Yes, Adolf, calm down. Here we go. We have, Now we have movement, but it's not really significant here. But in the grand scheme of things right now, it looks like they're still fighting over this rail junction, a section here. I don't know why, when you should be concentrating your defense in Beninsky and Hanover. Vilnius holding fine. Stevenov, they should be. Yeah, but Nova, the Russians are coming around. They've taken all but the road junction now. Nova is all but taken. Now, they're fighting still, but yeah. Depends how much artillery and that is in and around those areas. Still fighting here in this corner. Again, I believe the Russians will try once more to cascade through, cutting off Ukrainians and making sure they haven't got a strategic position on their borders. So it does look like Russia is clearing their borders, destroying Ukrainian positions through here, such as this town that looks more like an airfield, which I believe was a touch-and-go airfield for refueling. Nothing much here has changed. Nothing much here has changed. The Russians are building up for an assault on Orkiv, but first they're going to get through the front, destroy the first line of defense to get to the town, which is falling roughly into the second line of defense. It's possible that the first line here is now here, with the second line of artillery here, and the third roaming in this area here, because the last thing you want to do is have your really big guns within range of the Russians in fixed positions. That's good way to ask an Su-35 over for a little pokey poke. And you don't want to get the pokey poke from the 122 millimeters of the rockets from the Su-25, where they were originally just hit and miss. They're pretty much now laser guided, so they're going to pokey poke the right places. Though some of you might like a pokey poke from a 122 millimeter. That's your business. Me? What has your coffee mug done for you lately? Where has it taken you? Has it taken you to the stars? Has it brewed you some dark magic? Has it inspired you? Water bottle, tumbler, coffee cups, travel mugs, your one-stop shop for enchanting treasures based on my writing come to life. These artifacts will touch your heart and ignite your imagination. That's Empire Vels, one word, empirevels.myshopify.com. All right. Russia has unveiled a new version of its artillery radar. Now, since World War One, the Allies and the Axis powers have all tried to find ways to detect artillery from the moment the gun goes in place. But most of it is based on when the gun goes boom. The first artillery spotters used huge soundboards, and through the vibrations were able to sort of position and angle these huge soundboards, and from the vibrations give a rough estimate of where the artillery was set. Now, because some of these siege guns took time to get into place and were sandbagged and had to be, took a lot to lug up. They didn't have forklifts or that. You had wagons. You had huge logistics. You had 24 men. You had guards. You had shovel diggers. You had even tea caddies. But over time, down to 3-man crews, fire, pick up your gun and relocate. So naturally, as radar technology and electronic detection was the focus, and through electronic detection, you have ground radar units. Now, you're going to eventually be limited by curvature. Whether or not you believe in flat Earth or not, the fact is, and the fact remains, there is a limit to how far you can detect. And Russia's pushing to that edge, and they are, of course, eager to sell their technology right now. It's that they know, and the only reason why they know they're secure in selling their technology is the Americans already have better. So, whether you want to believe or not, you can say all glory to Russia or all glory to Ukraine, but the fact remains, nice to have detection, but without accurate retaliation, it's just World War One. Mudslinging. Monkey fling poo. Except this poo is 155mm deadly shells. But it does, and both sides have it. Both sides target each other's stations. Electronic warfare to try and jam each other's stations. It's a game of cat and mouse that eventually comes down to the field commander staring across, thinking, what is Zelensky up to? And the other field commander staring across the field going, what is her Putin up to? Yeah. It comes down to tenacity, cunning, And right now, the edge, ever so slightly, is still in Russia's favour. Ukraine is a crippled state, a vassal, who's, if the Europeans left tomorrow, would collapse under its own weight. It has no industry that is not dependent on foreigners, foreign money, and they always love to brag, but the moment they get attacked, they cry like babies. They're so stunning and brave that they can't even show you a fire without clipping it. So stunning, so brave. But they claim they're down 642, but they got hit by a record 30. So 30 got through. 30 missiles got through. And over 60 drones got through. They say, yeah, over 60 drones. Most of the missiles got through. Now, Russia's using less Shiads and more Gambler. They are increasing the number of... Now, I think the difference in the missiles, I'm not going to bother, is pretty much launch and payload, depending. It's just basically different methods to basically overwhelm, particularly with the air launch, to overwhelm tracking and radar systems. Knowing their limitations is all part of the game. Now, increasingly, Mr. Budanov has been the spokesperson for Ukraine. Now, whether or not Zelensky is setting him up to be the fall guy, or just wants to hide the fact that he's not in the country, or that Krylo is actually positioning himself to challenge her Zelensky, who knows? Well, Krylo knows, and probably only Krylo knows. Everybody else will have to speculate. But right now, on President's instruction, she had to find a way to end the war. Oh no! There was only some way. It's like, if only had Russia reached out and asked us to end the war. Wait, they did not long ago, and you mocked them for it. And then all of a sudden it is, oh, we had the brilliant idea to end the war. It's like, really, says Mr. Putin, is it the spirit of anchorage? How did you know? Are you spying on us? No, it's in the memo I sent you a couple of days ago. No, you never sent no such memo. So, really, folks, come on. Are pro-Ukrainians that are isolated, insulated, and basically dumb? Yes. Ukrainian glazers are they going to be that dumb? Right? They got their head so far up Zelensky's ass that they will not see the forest for the trees. They will basically be going, no, I can see the light. Well, boomer, walk towards it. Now, when he talks about the Anchorage agreements, this is the final agreement to end the war, which was put together by Russia, Ukraine, the United States, Europe, and other intermediaries, all telling Ukraine, accept the land you lost, and Mr. Putin, accept that you're not going to get the land you want. Now, both sides are right now in a death spiral of trying to cripple each other, and Ukraine, sooner or later, are going to wake up to the sound of a thunderous boom, and you've seen massive plumes in the distance as Russia hits, not once, not twice, but 6 times in, I don't know how many, 9,000. So let's say about each one carrying, 6. So let's say Russia could probably sit there for a year and pound Ukraine solely with missiles and basically, yeah, pretty much destroy some industrial centers in Ukraine completely, obliterate them. The Ukrainian economy crippled for the next 100 years. Just now, can Russia do it in 90 days or 30 days like America? Maybe not. I would say it would take them up to a year to equal the firepower. Europe shouldn't be looking at Russia as a threat other than nuclear weapons. And the last thing you want to do is put nuclear weapons on Russia's doorstep and say, we're going to scare you each and every day into submission, like we did with the Cold War. That ain't going to happen. China isn't going to suddenly be your friend, okay? India plays both sides. Europe is playing both. Europe's playing a dangerous game of thumbing their nose at Russia and thumbing their nose at the United States. And every time they get into trouble, they beg Russia to back off and beg the United States to make them. France's nuclear umbrella? That's a joke. Yeah. And they even admitted today that they're relying on American capabilities to detect Russian launches. So, yeah, the European French nuclear umbrella is a facade. Okay, it's all posturing. But if Putin has reiterated his claim, the end was near, they all chuckled, and now they're saying the same thing. They're now taking President Trump, seriously, and that's ultimately a good thing if we're moving closer to the end of the war, and not another fooled you moment like Zelensky did in 2022, 2023, 2024, and in 2025 when they tried to pull the same scheme again. Putin said, no, not withdrawing, not going to move. You show us, you first, right? You first. And every time, right, since 2022, Putin has called their bluff, and Ukraine has, what happens? How many times has Ukraine broken its own ceasefire and then says, oh, Russia made me? And of course, they're relying on the fact that the Europeans and the mainstream media are going to hear no evil, see no evil, and call everyone a Putin bot. I mean, that's how afraid they are. That's how xenophobic they are. That's how scared and insecure they are. And that they cannot face their own side and say, are we the baddies? Now, there was a scheme to wiretap Russian officials. We spy on us, they spy back. Everybody is watching everybody and trusting no one. Yet, there should be a line you do not cross. And that is being a little bitch every time you're caught. Now, the latest scheme was to basically tap in to the security systems for telephones and updates for secure phones and install spyware remotely into Russian high-ranking officials by a combination, not just one, by a combination of foreign intelligence services, plural. The scheme involved large-scale installation of spyware on phones by wiretapping, which would enable wiretapping, so provide to basically use the technology capabilities of major international IT corporations and mobile communications networks to carry out a covert update of people's phones to install spyware onto them. Now, it was a multi-layered scheme that did or could have put more people at risk, because it basically, right, if you send out a node-wide update, all the phones on the, right, if you make a secure system insecure, there's always a chance, right? There are people out there every day who carry out programs called sniffers, who look for open ports on the net, look for traffic, and basically, but the thing is, officials, when they discovered were wiretapped, were blacklisted. Yeah, so special services were blacklisted. Yeah, they were trying to pressure officials. So the FSB opened a criminal probe, went through the infrastructure, started clearing out the networks that were gathering all the data, and could only, of course, carry out arrests within Russia, basically of the data centers that were collecting the data to then forward onto the United States and France, Germany, etc. It was a very large operation. Recently, however, there was an arrest within the CIA. Someone involved in a very large-scale operation, probably that went sour or south, could be this one, could be another one, was found to be pocketing money that was meant to be paying off people. So is it corruption in the CIA that led to this? Who knows? Are they related? Who knows? All we know is that a couple of days ago, a CIA operative on the foreign desk was arrested for basically stealing from his employer. Just stealing from the CIA. I mean, we can't, a den of thieves, oh no, thieves, liars, and cutthroats stealing from each other. No, they're men serving their country. No, not to shit on patriots, but when you've got a bad reputation and you hire people for their cunning and sneakiness, don't expect every one of them to be honest Boy Scouts. Mr. Alexander Burbov is a historian and works at the Institute for Strategic Research and Forecasts at Ruden University. He's author of the book The Grand Strategy of Russia and has a Telegram channel on diplomacy, and he has talked extensively on the Ukraine war and the effect of US sanctions that have turned Russia from weakness. Russia was originally weakened by sanctions, but they were able to realign their logistics, look at all the idle factories and go, wait a minute, there are legal channels we can take, and started saying, hey, Europe, you're not paying your rent. Oh, it's all frozen in sanctions. No, you have not made deposits. Right? We still get account notifications. We just can't touch the money. You're not paying our rent. So thank you for these buildings. Thank you for these nice factories. Court case after court case. And the same thing. Europe finally stopped sending lawyers. They started whining to the United States. You can either sanction them or you pay their bills. You pay it. Like Europe basically is that asshole who says, "Look at my pretty cake," as they try to, take your cake so they can eat one. Now, two offensives right now are entirely heated up. Now, Zaporozhye and Donetsk are pretty hot. Kherson is pretty much a stalemate, and the the northern frontier is a slow grind with a lot of frozen ground. Right, there's not many areas where there is advancing, and that's rare. Back and forth like and that often ends up being like Kupiansk, back and forth, back and forth. So you got a lot of moving parts with NATO and um, individual factions, I suppose, the French, the Germans, the English, and Italians recently did vote against uh, stealing, reallocating Russian assets to Ukraine. And don't forget the Anchorage agreement. President Trump offered both sides a face-saving compromise. Putin did swallow his pride and make an agreement in pursuing peace. Zelensky has failed to come to the table multiple times. He's been called out, and every time he gets called out, all the Democrats and all the European elitists go, "You're just a Putin bot." Nah, 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 nah. You know, they really think that Europe and particularly the UK really think America owes them so much that they could beat anybody and everybody around the head, and at the end of the day, you'll keep coming back like a whipped dog and say, "Yes, sir, we need your market so much. Yes, you're 30% of our trade. We need bases there. But if you're not going to let us use them, why do you bother? Why do you abuse the relationship with other countries, Europe? Heck, we even offered you a NATO base in Australia and you turned it down. You said, oh no, we want one in Japan. And Japan says, what? No, we don't. Even Japan said, we need you to help secure the South Pacific. No, Europe, and many have pointed out, you know, Europe doesn't want to carry its water. You think this French nuclear umbrella is a new deal? Boy, are you wet behind the ears. I remember distinctly ever since France got nuclear weapons, they've been talking about being the umbrella of Europe. Heck, remember Ukraine? Ukraine saying, we're going to be the air defense umbrella for Europe. Yeah, well, you're not doing so crash hot. Now, granted, drones and drone interceptors are still new, and these so-called AI swarm drones are new. But in the long term, right, it seems that you're falling behind, particularly in diplomacy. Your let's use our words attitude is all a lie. It's based on ambiguity and strategic pressure. And strategic pressure right now on Russia, you blow up a oil plant and then go, give up. And Russia says, no. But we told you to give up. You must. We blow up your oil. You want us to keep blowing stuff up? So they blow stuff up in Ukraine. And Russia says, okay, you give up. We're blowing this up. And they say, nah, it's in Ukraine. It doesn't matter. Well, so, yeah. That's the attitude of Europe right now. Ukraine doesn't matter. It's not. It didn't hurt me. Oh no, you blew up something in Kharkiv. Oh no, I felt nothing. That's the problem. Europe's diplomacy has always relied on the fact that as long as they're safe and comfortable, they can hold out forever. It's all a game. And when you realize that there are no good guys, just 980 psychopaths, approximately, who are playing games, hiding behind governments, not in government, hiding behind them. But Russia is not going to let you bully them anymore. And you've gotten so used to bullying Russia through the Cold War and post-90s that you basically missed every opportunity to make a new friend. Could you imagine US and US and European trade right now if you were still trading with Russia and Ukraine and had admitted you'd be in the halfway through the process of admitting them? You wouldn't even have Putin in office. He would have retired um, approximately 10 years ago. You'd have waited out Putin in the NATO process, like you're trying to wait out Erdogan. You think he's an idiot who doesn't realise you're trying to wait him out? Gosh. God, it is all so blatantly French. The ambiguity, the playing both sides, the always waiting and see to see if there's something better. The yes, no, maybe attitude of the EU as a whole. You just want to be some rainbow alliance of petty bureaucrats, and it is not going to work. Okay? You want peace through trade. What you do is you set up trade commissions, standards, and the infrastructure for it, and you just use tariffs to pay for it all. Instead, you're leaking lots of money into organizations for very, very repetitive people who cannot do anything other than regurgitate textbooks. They have no imagination, they have no world experience, and seems every time they fail, you find a new job for them. It is getting tiresome, even the European population. There is talk now of not one but two exits from the EU and blocking Keir Starmer and blocking permanently so that England cannot vote back in, right? Just turn around and say, nope, with a stroke of pen, nope, it is not. It would have to be a huge, huge, huge hurdle to try and force England back in. And isn't it funny that Scotland's talking about independence and being a full EU member on their own? It's like that. So you swap the British Empire for the EU. Congratulations, you're dirt under my shoe. You know, you Scotland is shite, basically, yet again, right? So that's the state of the war and the European Union, who cannot get out of their own shadow and realise that this war, it's not one that can be won. It's not one that it's not, and it's best to quit while you're ahead and have your little tea parties where you go, we stopped them, didn't we? Oh, yes, we did. And be done with it, right? Because in 10 years' time, who's going to care? And in 20 years' time, it all goes away. There's going to be no Zelensky. There's going to be no Putin. There's going to be people trying to rebuild their lives now who are sick of being in limbo. There's Poland sick of the refugees. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. Please support the channel. You can support me on Ko-Fi, Patreon, buy my books, buy my merch. All my links are in the link tree. That's David T. Applegate, one word. Scan the QR code on the screen. Look at my profile. Thank you for listening. See you in the next video. Bye for now.